Welcome to BevCam's production of Conversation with the Candidates. I'm Maria Decker, your host for this segment. Today we'll be talking with Pal Manzo, who is a candidate for Ward 2 School Committee. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria.
Would you give our viewers about a 2-minute opening statement describing your personal self, your family, your education, your career, anything you want to add?
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm a candidate for re-election, which means that I'm currently a member of the school committee. I've been on the committee for almost 10 years now, so this is my sixth term that I'm seeking. I currently serve as the chair of the school committee, which is a very interesting challenge, but one I enjoy every day. In the past, I've been chair of the finance group for 8 years. I've been a member of the finance group for not only my entire term, but also 2 years as an appointed member. And so I have a good deal of experience on the school committee. I grew up in Beverly. I currently reside at a house on Lovett Street that my wife and I moved into back in 1997, but I grew up in the Cove. Went to the Cove School, Briscoe Junior High School, and Beverly High School, which is a same trajectory that my son is now taking. He went to Cove, Briscoe Middle School, and now he's a junior at the high school. After leaving the high school, I went on to seek degrees in biology and zoology at the University of Rhode Island, University of Maryland, and Boston University. And currently I'm a contract science writer and editor working with a couple of local biotech firms. I'm really excited about seeking another term on the school committee. We have a lot of incredible things going on in the district, and I want to make sure that the interests of the students, the interests of the community are looked after at least for 2 more years while I'm on the committee.
Great. We will talk about some of those incredible things going on through the rest of the program. If you could share with us some of your most notable accomplishments over the past 10 years with the school committee.
Well, being on the committee as long as I have, I've been fortunate enough to serve on the different standing committees. We have a group on curriculum instruction and student life. We have a group on finance and facilities. This term was my first term with the negotiations, which is, again, another learning experience. But I think the most rewarding thing that I've seen in the last 10 years or so is the way the community has shifted around their impression of how the school committee manages its facilities and finances. Again, I've been a member of the Finance and Facilities group for almost 10 years and chair for 8 of those. When I first started on the committee, there was a sense in the community that we didn't take care of our buildings, we didn't take care of our budgets. And in that time, in the last 12 years, we've become the model of how you oversee budgets and how you oversee buildings. And there have been a lot of people who played a role in that. I've played a small part in that as well. We've had fantastic financial directors the last several years. And so to go from a place where individuals say you don't look after your money to this is exactly how you should be doing it is actually something I'm very proud of.
That's great. Speaking of buildings, I'm not sure you'll find anybody in this city who doesn't recognize the need for and support a new middle school. But there's much concern over that $110 million price tag. Mm-hmm. Please share some thoughts on this project.
Well, you know, it's a fantastic project, but in the end, it's still just a building. The thing that I'm most excited about is that it's allowing the district or prompting the district to re-examine curriculum pre-K through 12. And so we're creating a new middle school environment that's grade 5 to 8. It's going to look very different than the middle school environment we have now. And so in order to take full advantage of that change in curriculum and programming, we need to make sure that we have alignment from pre-K through grade 4 in the elementary schools, and then again in high school, because it doesn't make much sense to redo the entire middle school curriculum if the students aren't prepared for it in the elementary environment, or you take advantage of those advances as they leave for high school. And so to me, that's one of the most exciting parts about the project. It's not the building itself, which is going to be fantastic, but it's what it means to the educational program throughout the district.
So you and I know what's going into this new $110 million building, and you've talked about the curriculum changes leading, as you say, pre-K through 12. But for some of the viewers out there, they don't know what we're getting for $110 million. Can you highlight some of the assets of the new building?
Well, the building itself is going to house approximately 1,400 students in grades 5 through 8, and so that's a big change for our community. The 5th graders will now leave an elementary environment and be part of a middle school program. In response to a lot of concerns from parents and members of our community, we're looking to substantially separate the 5th and 6th grade students from the 7th and 8th grade students, but still allow some interaction periodically when it's warranted. And so there'll be some mentoring programs, there'll be tutoring opportunities for the older students with the younger students. But by and large, it'll be a 4-story academic building that separates the students into separate grades by floor, and then within a particular grade, they'll have separate academic neighborhoods. So right now in the Briscoe building, the students are aligned on 3 different teams that are blue, gold, and white. We'll have a similar alignment in the new middle school for these students, but rather than having them on a separate floor, a separate wing, they'll have an entirely discrete academic neighborhood where all the core instruction, math, English language arts, social studies, and science will be housed in one particular academic neighborhood. Students will be sharing some specialty classrooms such as technology and art, and then of course there'll always be performing arts and physical education. And so the building itself is really designed to create, take a 1,400 student building, which will be the largest school in the district, and break it down to smaller academic neighborhoods, which I think is one of the very exciting things about the new structure. You can't do it unless you actually design a building that supports that kind of program.
So a little more personalization for the students in a smaller environment. That's
Right.
nice. The high school is in its 5th year with a one-to-one learning model, supported by a cost of more than $1,000 to parents of high school students. Could you tell us what the data has shown that impact of the one-to-one model has had on student achievement?
Well, we're a bit lacking on data at this point. As you know, we took 2 years off from MCAS assessments to field test PARCC, and so the statewide assessment data for the last 2 years is not complete. It's not where we want it to be, and that's part of investing in a new set of curriculum standards and a new assessment to go along with them. Apart from that, I think that the laptop program has been very successful. I think it puts a very necessary tool in the hands of most students. It's prompted a lot of teachers to change the way that they approach their classroom lessons every day. This is a great story from a teacher I know who spent years sitting behind a desk and teaching. And once the laptops hit the desks, he realized, well, I have to get up and walk around. And it's really made him engage more in the learning process with the students. And it's that kind of change that the laptop program from top to bottom has fostered.
So you mentioned PARCC. If you could tell our viewers, what does PARCC stand for, and what has the district's experience been with that PARCC testing?
So PARCC is a standardized test which is given in both elementary and secondary levels. It functionally replaces the MCAS exams that many people are familiar with. And the reason why we have this new assessment program is that starting in 2011, we started adopting a different set of educational frameworks. And so the Massachusetts Educational Frameworks, which is followed by all 351 communities and towns in in Massachusetts, incorporate what's known as the Common Core Standards, a set of national standards that were developed by a collection of state governors. Because the standards have changed in our schools, and this is a very important change, the standards are now requiring students to do more than just memorize information and spit it back out. We're requiring students to actually analyze and think and become more creative about how they apply the information that they know. Because we have these new standards, we needed a new assessment tool. The MCAS exam wasn't appropriate for these standards. It'd be like if I told you to study for a geometry exam and then you showed up and I gave you a calculus test.
I'd be okay, though.
You'd be fine, but it's important that the standards and the assessment tools match one another. And so Beverly has done 2 years of a field test of the PARCC test. And the goal of the field test was twofold. One is to make sure that students get comfortable with the format of the exam because it is different than the MCAS exam. And then secondly, a lot of the districts, including Beverly, administer the PARCC exam through technology, through laptops, iPads, Chromebooks. And so it was as much a field test of that technology as anything. I'm happy to say that the technology, at least in this building and the elementary environment, did very well. There were some lessons learned throughout the process, but as far as administering the exam in the high school and in the elementary buildings, the technology did fine.
So we touched on technology in the high school, and I'm guessing then that there's going to be some data to show in the future, try to judge how the one-to-one model is working. But what's the technology plan for this brand new, wonderful middle school? Are parents going to have to shell out more money for another student to say they have one in middle school and then 1,000 in high school? Or for even with the same student, once in middle school and then in high school? I'm sure it's up in the air a little bit, but tell us what's going on with it.
It's almost entirely up in the air.
Okay.
We're still actually in the very early stages of the design development phase of the middle school. And so we know where the building is, we know what it's going to cost, we know basically what the structure will look like, but the interior design, the structural design, the systems in the building still have yet to be determined. And that's something that our design team will be working on over the next several months. And so I assume that the building will be wireless, capable of running handheld devices anywhere, similar to this facility. But what those devices are, whether they're provided by the district or by families, I honestly have no idea. That's something that the district has to work on in the next year or so before that building opens up in 2018.
And technology then in the elementary schools, what is that like?
Technology in the elementary schools, it's interesting. So all of the buildings in Beverly, this building, the high school, the elementary buildings, they've all been newly renovated since 2000. And so some of those elementary schools are now undergoing upgrades to technology, and so they're getting new wireless access points. They're getting a more robust network, which is allowing the elementary students to use mostly handheld devices, iPads and Chromebooks, to access the curriculum. That's not a one-to-one model there, because the elementary environment is one where students work in small group instruction. And so the elementary students will be working with the teachers on some exercises. They'll go off and they'll do a different set of exercises amongst themselves or individually. And so there's no longer do we have in any classroom in the district a teacher standing up and giving a lecture for 45, 84 minutes, whatever. And so the small group instruction in the elementary environment takes advantage of a smaller number of computers, laptops, iPads, whatever, for the students to use during a portion of their, for example, literacy time or math time. And so the challenge has been the last year or year plus is to improve the infrastructure in those elementary buildings so that you can take advantage of the resources that the district is bringing back into the schools. If you go to an elementary school, and I'm not sure how long it's been since you've been in one, but we're crunched for space in those buildings. Yeah. And so in a lot of cases, the computer lab, which was a room, just as it sounds, a room full of 30 or so desktop computers, is generally a thing of the past. Those rooms have been resourced as classrooms in many cases to deal with the burgeoning enrollment problems that we have in the elementary schools. And so it's necessary then that we replace that technology with something that's far more portable that can go into the classroom and be used by the students there.
That's great. There's much talk about STEM or STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Yet at the elementary level, really little is being done to encourage students to explore these areas. At the elementary school level, students receive just one 45-minute STEAM lesson every week that results in science instruction of just once every 3 weeks. Please explain to our viewers what is planned to address this dearth of science instruction for our youngest students.
Well, each of the elementary buildings now has a dedicated science specialist to provide for not just instruction to the students, but also instruction for the teachers, classroom teachers who want to incorporate science or technology into their lessons, into their content area lessons. So that's a valuable resource we've just recently added to all the buildings. At one point we had a pair of science specialists which would basically skate from school to school. We've now replaced those with individuals in each of the 5 buildings. And so that's a big step forward in incorporating STEAM into the everyday lessons of those schools. Part of the review of the curriculum related to the middle school project, again, is going to look at ways in which we can set the foundation for a robust middle school STEM or STEAM program in the elementary environment. And so we'll certainly be looking to bulk up that area in the elementary school so that they're ready to take on this fantastic educational program that they'll reach in the middle school. And then apart from that, a lot of the elementary schools have been embracing STEAM on their own. They're getting in front of this juggernaut in a sense. I was at the Cove School last week for a meeting, and they're basically taking their library and they're dedicating a portion of that library as a maker space, so a place where students can come in and work on hands-on projects, working on to build something, to leave it there so they can come back and finish it later. And so the schools really aren't waiting for this change to take place.
That's great. Now, are they doing this during the school day? Is this extracurricular?
It's both.
Co-curricular?
It's both. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that and this is something that you and I share, Beverly's been known as a very strong performing arts, athletic community, school community for a number of years. People come here and they say, wow, this has got to be a performing arts high school. It's not. It's just something that we believe strongly in, and over the years we've developed that reputation. It's my hope that with the implementation of this new curriculum, with the construction of a new middle school, that Beverly gets the reputation of being a STEAM district as much as performing arts or athletics.
Without sacrificing what we already have.
Without sacrificing anything else. There has to be something for everyone in our school district. And this is especially true at the high school, where it's a very rigorous academic environment. Students need something to hold on to, and so for a lot of the students, they play soccer. And if I play soccer well, then that creates a structure around which my academics happen, or I'm doing the musical, or I'm in the marching band. I want to make sure that we give those students who are interested in science and technology a place to go. We've started already. We have a very good robotics team here in the high school. We'll have a robotics program at the middle school to feed it. And so over the next several years, I only expect, given the support of the school committee, the superintendent, who's a big fan of STEAM, that these programs will only grow in all of our schools.
I hope so too. Looking forward to that. There's some recent talk of revamping the district's 40-year-old tuition-funded EEC enrichment program that's for gifted and talented elementary students. Could you please outline the changes that are proposed and the rationale for them?
Well, the EEC program has been a valuable enrichment experience for a lot of students over the years, but honestly, a number of us have felt that it was lacking in one extent, in that it doesn't reach enough students. That students would go to this program, they would leave their regular ed classroom and go to this enrichment program, come back, and we always said, well, why can't all the classes be like this? Why can't all the classes be like the EEC program? And so, so one of the things we're looking to do, we have added some faculty to support this, but we're looking to bring that EEC experience to every elementary school. And so this is the first year of the program where third grade students, it's a program that serves third, fourth, and fifth grade students. And it's a pull-out program that was originally housed at the Memorial Building. Actually, it's moved around over the years. And
tuition-based?
It's tuition-based, yes.
Okay.
And so, so this year, third grade students no longer pulled out of their schools. They have an EEC-like program in their elementary schools that's run by classroom teachers. We have math and reading coaches at each of the facilities as well. And so there's a group of teachers that are providing the same experience for third grade students in their schools. And so no longer do you have these students, these third grade students who bemoan the fact that they're missing, gym day or art day because they're leaving for EEC. They're in their schools, they stay in their schools, but they get the same experience. We currently have the fourth and fifth grade programs are housed at the Centerville School, and that's the more traditional program where they leave their home school, if it's not Centerville, and go to Centerville for the day for this enrichment program. And that's going to continue at least for this year. We're hoping that the third grade program is a pilot for the other grades, and so that in the future going forward, we're hoping that the same sort of enrichment program resides in each of our elementary schools. And one of the things about having it resident in the building is that you can then provide it for free, no tuition, and to more students. And so I see this as the first steps towards creating that elementary enrichment program for all students in the elementary environment.
Nice, thank you. The school district hasn't done redistricting for elementary schools in a long time. And at the same time, we had a policy that we hoped for equitable distribution of our high-need students. With an overall district rate of 36% high-need students, there's some disparity. Ayers has over 44%, and North Beverly has under 30%. Please share with us how the district accommodates this disparity, any plan to rectify it, and any plan for elementary redistricting.
Well, as you know, the district is obligated to at least consider redistricting every 10 years. It has been a while since we've done a redistricting. It was part of when the McEwen's elementary school closed, we did redistrict students, and so that's really when the clock started running on the next time we have to look at it. My guess is that in association with moving the 5th grade students to the new middle school, this district may benefit from redistricting, or at least examining redistricting at that point in time of the remaining K through 4 students in the 5 elementary buildings. That's not something that's right on the radar right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that the next term takes up in earnest. It certainly is an issue that we need to address. We need to make sure that recognizing that there's a disparity in high-need students, and we're talking about students that are qualify for free and reduced lunch, that they are disparately distributed across the schools. We do have to make sure that each of the schools has whatever support it needs. One of the things that the new superintendent is in favor of is this zero-based budgeting approach, where we examine the specific needs of each of the buildings, elementary, middle, high school, and make sure that those buildings get what they want. And a lot of that depends on the population in the school. So we do have Title I support for some of our elementary schools, which provides support for those buildings that have a larger than average share of its free and reduced lunch students. And we'll continue with that program and continue to devote the resources that we need to make sure that the elementary experience in Centerville is the same as at Ayers, is the same as at Cove, regardless of the makeup of the students in the building.
Great, thank you. Would you please describe how you plan to engage the citizens of Ward 2 and the whole city who may have questions or concerns about school issues?
Well, I've always considered myself accessible to the people in Ward 2. It's a bit of a challenge these days. A lot of the information that a lot of the places where people go to for information are social media outlets. And any representative has to be careful about how they use social media to distribute information. It's fine to distribute information on, say, Facebook and Twitter, but because of the open meeting law, any representative has to be very careful about expressing opinions on those platforms. And so it's been a bit of a challenge, I'll be honest, to use them and sort of walk that line between providing information without creating an artificial school committee meeting online, as more and more of us are on Facebook and Twitter and so on. So those are two places that I'm still learning to use, and I'd like to think that I'm not a dinosaur, but I'm also not a savant either. So I've got some ways to go in using those social media outlets successfully to engage the community. I mean, otherwise, I try to make sure that I'm out in the community as much as possible. You can find me most nights of the week at a PTO meeting, at a school committee meeting. Last night was a middle school meeting. Tomorrow I'm going to actually it's a workshop on using social media in the middle and high school environment. And every time I go to one of these gatherings, I always make sure I engage parents and students as much as possible. Even if I'm standing at a soccer field on the sidelines, I always make sure I reach out to see how things are going. I'm an active member of the Ward 2 Civic Association. They meet on Tuesdays, which is nice because they used to meet on Wednesdays, which, as we all know, is school committee night. Yeah. And so they've moved off to Tuesdays, and so I've been a regular attendee at those meetings and provide my updates to that group as well. And I hope that they take that information and bring it to the community. And I'm there to answer questions, which they have in plenty when I show up. So,
Great.
so I do what I can. I try to get out into the community as much as I can.
One last question before our closing statements. Besides several new faces on the school committee next term, what do you see as the greatest challenge facing them? And if elected, how do you plan to help them overcome that challenge?
I'm actually excited about the prospect of working with some new people. The three people who are currently running unopposed, who are not members of the school committee at this point, they're exactly the type of person I would vote for if I were not running for school committee myself. They're young. They have young kids. They are very energetic. They bring lots of good ideas. They're attending meetings already. They're getting up to speed, and so I'm very excited with the prospect of working with John Malati, Rachel Abel, and Paul Goodwin. I think that they'll do a great job in the school committee, and I'm excited about helping to mentor them along with Chris Silverstein and Lorinda Visnick, who are also returning to the committee. You know, serving on a committee is a different thing. You're one voice in seven. You discuss ideas, you bring subjects to the table, and you eventually decide on a course of action. And that course of action is your course of action, whether it was your original idea or not. You support it, you promote it, and you bring it to the community. And so serving on a committee is a very different experience, and so I would impress upon them the need to try to balance their own views with the views of the committee. So it's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
Yeah.
We'd like to give you an opportunity for about a 1-minute closing statement. If you have anything else to offer to our viewers.
Well, I'm just, again, excited about being here. First off, this is my seventh campaign for school committee. One unsuccessful try early on. So I'm excited that I'm back here at BevCam talking about these issues. Grateful for the opportunity to share my passion, my excitement for Beverly Public Schools. We're a good school district. We really are. The numbers show that people are coming back to Beverly because of the things that we're doing. And so I want to do what I can for the next 2 years to take us from being a good school district to being a better school district. And it all starts with providing the oversight and guidance to the administration, to the teachers, parents, and community members. And so I'm excited about the opportunity of doing that for 2 more years.
Great. We'd like to thank our guest, Paul Manzo, who is running for re-election for school committee representing Ward 2. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Maria.
My name is Maria Decker, and on behalf of BevCam, thank you for joining us.